Hey everyone, and welcome to the Mic'd Avengers podcast, where we focus on martial arts and action cinema, but definitely delve into much more. My name is Jason from Martial Arts Theater 3000. I've been a lifelong fan of martial arts movies from Bruce Lee to the Venom Mob, Bruceploitation, and everything in between.
My name's Dragon, aka the Fanatical Dragon on YouTube. I also write the Blu-ray reviews for Eastern Heroes magazine right here in the UK. I'm about 4 decades into this love affair with East Asian cinema, specifically action cinema. Bruce Lee, Jackie Chan and the Shaw brothers got me into Hong Kong films, but unlike my buddy Jason, I've seen a whole bunch of Japanese, Indonesian and South Korean action flicks too. So over the coming episodes, every so often, we're going to force feed him something he has not seen.
And I'm Shaun, also known as Foo for Thought. It all started for me at the tender age of 14, where I discovered Jackie Chan's Drunken Master. From there, I kind of delved into old school Kung Fu, and that has been my passion for 30 plus years now. I also started delving into all realms of Asian cinema, and I'm very happy to say that these days I have a pretty strong passion for kind of dark Korean thrillers. If you like what you hear and you're enjoying the podcast, please give us a like, share, and subscribe. And please enjoy this episode of the Mic'd Avengers. Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of the Mic'd Avengers podcast. I'm here with my beautiful co-host. We have the Fanatical Dragon, and of course,
Greetings.
Martial Arts Theater 3000, aka Jason. How you doing, fellas?
Very well.
Doing good.
Are you excited about talking about today's movie?
Fuck yeah.
Super excited.
The most, I genuinely think, sorry, I should say what film we're talking about today. We are talking about 1994's Drunken Master 2, or if you live in America, you may know it also as The Legend of Drunken Master, because it was released by Miramax. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
Yeah. Directed by, well, depending on who you ask, directed by Leung, co-directed, kind of, sort of, by Jackie Chan, and starring Jackie Chan, Leung, Anita Mui, Leung, a whole host of recognizable faces. So I have two questions for you before we get into the true meat of it. Is A, and anyone can go first. Actually, let me pick someone. Dragon, you can go first. Okay. A, what do you think of this film? And B, does it deserve a place on the top 10 Kung Fu movies of all time list?
First up, I enjoy this film very much. I probably enjoy it slightly more than the original Drunken Master. I'm heavily biased because I absolutely adore Lau Gar-lung. It's not one of Lau Gar-lung's best movies. It's not one of Jackie Chan's best movies. But it's a good time, mostly. We'll kind of get into it. It takes a little while to get started. Does it deserve a place in the top 10? Probably not. Depends on how deep your top 10 goes. And for me, my top 10, even if I was just using Chang-Chi and Lau Gar-lung movies, there doesn't really leave that many other spots. So would I put this above Project A or Project A Part 2? Don't know. Would I put it above Armor God or Operation Condor? Different sort of movie. Would I put it above any of the police stories? No. So probably not for me. I don't think it would make my top 10. The police story, maybe not technically. It's true martial arts movies, and this is at least started out to be more of an attempt to make a more grounded Jackie Chan kung fu movie, I think. But then it ended up somewhere very different, which we'll get into as we go on. But I do love the movie, that all said.
Yeah. It did end up being, I think, quite different from Lau Gar-lung's original vision, even though apparently we'll get into that. He directed quite a large chunk of it. But Jason, do you love Drunken Master 2? And does it have a place in your top 10 martial arts movies of all time?
Yes, I absolutely love it. I mean, I really do. Something changed on the rewatch, though. You guys know this is a trend I'm seeing, like with Shaun and Masked Avengers. You know, the rewatch, you never know what's going to happen. It's almost like a dice roll. You know, it's like, but not to go on like a tangent, or not to go on too much of a backstory, but I saw this when I was 15 and my mind was completely blown. Similar to how The Raid feels, this felt very modern to me because I wasn't into as much of the mid-90s. I was still a Shaw head, surprise, surprise, and I just couldn't even believe what I was seeing. I mean, my mind, I'm completely blown. When I rewatched it, the fight scenes feel like a greatest hits. Every fight scene, it's just to me, I think is breathtaking. But the moments in between the fight scenes, I feel aren't up at the level of the fight scenes. The story with the MacGuffin, it does come off as a little bit weak. It's just the story's like at the beginning, it just feels a little thin to me. Then what the MacGuffin means, what the plot is with the British colony, all of that, then it starts getting a lot more substance to it. But I always talk about how I want that, like Executioners of Shaolin. I want the training, I want the anger, I want that seriousness. I wish it had a little more of that as it led up to that last fight. It had a few moments where Jackie Chan, him crying and everything. It's just there's something that felt episodic about it on this rewatch, and in between the amazing, life-changing fights, when I saw, still to me, I can't even believe it. In between, I don't know, sometimes it felt like it went to like an episode of Seinfeld or something, and then back to this insane fight. And I like the interactions with Anita Moy, and I can dig on the comedy. It just feels a little bit like, I don't know how to say it. It just sometimes like a mismatch of the flow is a little jagged from the fight scenes to the in-between, the story itself. But I would say, I usually put this honestly in my top 3. When I love Heroes of the East. Everyone, I have a bunch that try to get into that top 3.
Yeah.
And when I started watching this, I was like, I think I'm going to tell these guys this is my favorite of all time. But then when it got to the thing about the ginseng and stuff, I was like, oh, what's going on here? What isn't clicking exactly? You know what I mean? Not the ginseng on the train, just something with the Anita Moy, and it felt like it went, like I said, to like a sitcom or something.
Yeah.
So my overall take is, yes, I love it. I think it's still in my top 5, but I just feel that the story, there's something, I think we'll dive into it. Something's a little amiss or a little off on the story that could have been better.
Yeah. I'm in the same camp as you, Jason. I watched this yesterday and it didn't work 100% for me. The fights, of course, there's no denying that. If anyone came to me and said any fight sequence in Drunken Master 2 was their favorite of all time, I wouldn't hold it against them. They're truly, the action in this is just incredible. But I felt that way as well. Some of the plot devices, like Anita Moy's pregnancy, it just seems very random at times, and kind of they don't quite follow through with it. And it doesn't fully work, but it also doesn't feel like one of those films that is just built around the fight scenes. I think they're going for something with the plot. I think they're actually trying, but some of it just doesn't quite work for me. I guess you said the best word, Jason. It's just weak. I think the plot is a little bit weak. And it's slightly a shame because the drop-off between fight scenes and plot is quite significant, to the point where I don't think it's irksome. I still love this film. I love it an incredible amount, but I just don't think it levels out perfectly there. I think it could have been something truly even more special than it is.
I think it was trying to be, and I feel that that's the kind of crux of what I think you're both kind of feeling. I kind of feel like it's a ship that has 2 captains trying to go in 2 different directions.
Yeah,
so
it never feels that way.
Never manages to kind of quite get to either destination as well as it would do if it was just one singular kind of creative voice behind it. And you can kind of see a lot of the comedy beats that I feel are probably Jackie Chan flexing a little bit in wanting to kind of speak to his audience and the people who liked him for a certain thing. And I feel that you've got Leung Leung trying to do a different thing. And I think that different thing that he was trying to do, Jackie Chan was in theory on board with at the beginning, because you can see him speaking. There's a really weird little making of that's on the version that I watched, which is the somewhat shady Hong Kong rescue version. There's like a 20 or 30 minute horribly shot very dated kind of behind the scenes visit of this American guy. I think it's called World of Movies or the World of Movies or something. And this guy went and basically kind of visited them in mainland China when they were filming.
Is that behind the scenes feature focused mainly on the train? Is it that one?
Most of the time that they're there is when they're shooting the train sequence. And he kind of speaks a bit to Lau Gar-lung. He speaks quite a lot to Jackie Chan, and the dude can speak Mandarin, which is very helpful because it means that he's a lot of the times Jackie Chan's struggling to explain something in English and he'll switch back. But you can tell at that stage that Jackie Chan was fully on board with trying to do something that was more grounded in real kung fu, and he's kind of takes great pains to speak about all the stuff which he kind of seems to have abandoned by the time that he gets to his last little Hong Kong section about not doing any wire work and it kind of being very much about sort of traditional kung fu. And you can kind of see that coming through in some of the kind of character beats when he's very reluctant to do Drunken Fist and he's doing more traditional Hung Gar style.
Yeah.
And he has the sort of supposed friendly-ish fight with the fishmonger at the market. Mm-hmm. And there was those incidental characters who were all really good, like the fishmonger and the snake girl, and the fishmonger had a disciple. It's, I think, one of Lau Gar-lung's nephews.
Mm-hmm. Lau Gar-lung, I believe that is. Yeah.
And you could, I think there was an idea that the last reel was going to have all of them in it.
Yeah.
Right. 100%. And you can sort of see it heading towards that. But interestingly, in that little behind the scenes, they've got an editing bay set up in the hotel room and they're editing as they're going. And he gets access to that. And he's sitting beside as they're watching some of the takes presumably from the days before. And some of the footage that flashes by is from the last fight. So it is basically in the factory at the end, right? But it's, I think, when they were still all together. So I think from the point when you kind of see there's a cut in the final version where after he's sent the other people away to look for, I can't remember which character it is that's still being captured because that all gets a little bit muddied. But he sends those other characters away off, the fishmonger and the snake girl, and he goes off on his own. And it's from that point that he kind of steps through a doorway into the factory, and there's the 4 workers and Ken Lo and the other guy. And then that kind of is the last reel that we end up getting. And that you can very much tell is all Jackie Chan's kind of, I don't want to call it a reshoot because I think they always intended that he was going to do some extra filming on his own in Hong Kong. And for whatever decision they came to, Lau Gar-lung wasn't involved in that bit. But it does very much feel like it's the movie goes to a different place than it was building to through the rest of the narrative, right? And I think it's a shame because it kind of leaves you with this sense of wondering what could have been if Lau Gar-lung had been allowed to kind of be a bit more responsible. Yeah. Because the stuff that he did do, like the tea house with the bamboo, I think I maybe prefer that whole section with the Axe Gang more than the last reel, as spectacular as the last reel is, right? I think that mostly because it feels more Lau Gar-lung-y, and I see shades of 8 Diagram Pole Fighters kind of last reel too, with the kind of the bamboo being split, but he's built on what he did in 8 Diagram Pole Fighter, and he's kind of worked out a bunch of extra ways to use the bamboo. So he's turning it into like a trap weapon where you can sort of expand it out and then close it in on people. And there's kind of maybe a slightly more interesting vertical location than we got in 8 Diagram Pole Fighter. But it's nice seeing them riff on a sort of traditional tea house with the multiple levels, and just really like the setup of it where the town's got really empty and deserted and the tea house is abandoned, and then there's this sort of relentless attack. I love that sequence. And so for me, the last reel, as great and as stunt focused as it is, and it's definitely Jackie Chan taking a lot of crazy risks, it never quite manages to top what we saw earlier on in the film. So it kind of feels a little bit weirdly anticlimactic rewatching it again this time around.
Wow. Yeah, I didn't get that at the end, I will say, though. I mean, but that's cool to hear your. For me, the ending. When I get to the ending, it feels. I don't know how to explain it. This is like every single. Did you guys feel that you remember every single movement? Like each part, it felt like a song coming back to me. It was incredible. Yeah.
I've seen it so many times that it's just, it's like a second language to me now. When I watch it, I'm just like, oh, I follow it beat for beat. And in my head, I'm like, oh, I've seen this so many times, but it still kind of stokes up those fires in me.
Yeah, I do think this ending is probably my favorite fight scene of all time, but it's lost. I really do. I really do. I know, but I feel like it lost a little bit because what I need in those Jackie Chan movies, I love Fearless Hyena because like his grandfather died and the revenge, he's so riled up, and there was exact training. Like he tried to take on the master in Fearless Hyena and got his ass kicked. Then they worked on his emotional kung fu, it all makes sense that when you're there, you could feel everything that brought him to that point. In this, I think as a standalone fight scene, it's unbelievable. But the Ken Lo and those guys, they are like horrible, almost caricatures of these. They're just not in the movie enough. Almost, they always feel kind of over there, and like they suck, and it sucks what they're doing to the workers. But it doesn't have that like Karate Kid, like Ralph Macchio. It's not in you. Like you're not like joined with Jackie in this like shared rage exactly lined up, and I think that brought it down a little bit. But the actual mechanics of everything, I feel like that climax is real satisfying for me. Like especially when the chair starts exploding apart and it just builds and builds and builds.
Those bits are dope, but I can't. It doesn't top what he had already done with kind of with Benny the Jet and Wheels on Meals or in Dragons Forever. I think those are kind of beat for beat, kind of more dynamic and slightly more kind of relentless sort of fight scenes. This feels more like a succession of really well staged stunts, right? And I love Jackie Chan doing stunts, so that's why I'm not being too facetious when I call it Fire Story, because it is that sort of feel to me. It's the kind of what he was going for in Police Story, where he's less concerned about it being about the sort of the rhythm of a fight, which he's spoken about at length so many times about how meticulously they kind of beat those things out. And it just feels like maybe the rhythm isn't flowing as smoothly here, because it's got to incorporate these kind of crazy gags. Basically, I don't want to call them gags to belittle them at all, because it's still fucking phenomenal, but it's still like, okay, we've got this stick, and when anytime that we hit something with a metal stick, that's going to go on fire. Okay, we've got the bit where he's going to fall in the coals. Okay, we've got the gag where we're going to do the angled floor so we can do some crazy jumps, and the sort of running at high speed that he kind of does, and the sort of the chin against face and then nose against face gag, and there's all these little kind of wee Jackie-esque beats that are all kind of cool, and it all really works, and it's all great. But for me, it doesn't feel like it's the same movie that we saw the train fight that was so well staged and so kind of intricately plotted, and particularly the tea house, which was I think the tea house is the finest moment in that movie in terms of the two worlds working the best. Right, by the time you get to the end, it's just straight Jackie Chan, and I'm all in for straight Jackie Chan. But it started out as a Lau Gar Lung movie, so as a movie as a whole, it's kind of not gonna. This time around, I was maybe more. I don't know, maybe just kind of a bit older, or because I've seen it so many times, and I knew that we were going to be talking about it, so maybe I had my more critical head on. But for me, it just didn't hit quite as hard as it had done in previous watches.
I will say I'm happy on what you just said right there, because the way you explain the stunts and what you're calling stunts too, it helped me understand what you're saying. Because when I see Super Cop, which I really rank really high, I feel that is a way more stunt heavy movie with less fighting.
Absolutely.
The fights are very snappy, but there's just, from the helicopters and the motorcycles, the ending, I still see it as very fight heavy, tons of choreography, tons of different like shapes, and like he goes in traditional styles, the Drunken, but so I was thinking I only remember the fire stunt, but I know what you mean. There's cuts that to very set up like Jackie Chanisms, like the chin and stuff, which I maybe wouldn't call a stunt, but I know what you mean. The flow goes to these like things you could see that they really worked on, like getting them in there.
Totally. Which is no bad thing, right?
I'm going to go against both your grains and actually say my favorite fight scene is when the bag gets stolen. And he has like the marketplace fight scene.
Which bag? There's a couple bags. You mean with Need as the purse or the jewelry?
Yes.
Oh, okay.
So the first time he really drinks alcohol and goes crazy. To me, that fight scene is more in line with like the traditional kung fu shapes that I love. Yes, it has some acrobatics, and sure, it has some wire work as well. But that fight scene is like, I prefer it to even the finale. I love it. It's just a little pocket of pure kung fu. Whereas, the tea house scene is kind of big and over the top and kind of isn't based on strictly choreography. And the finale is, Yeah, I agree with what you're saying. It's like a mix of kind of Jackie Chan moments, and it's like he's carried the very withering small ghost of Lau Kar Leung towards the end, and then he's kind of letting it go and just doing what he does best. And I love it. I love Jackie Chan. I love what he does, but I do agree that it does get a bit, dare I say, heavy-handed towards the end a little bit.
It's weird because I think in a different movie that he maybe would have helmed all the way through, or maybe even in some ways, maybe I would have been really interested to see what would happen if he'd made it again with Yuen Woo-ping. Because Yuen Woo-ping at that point in the 90s, I think would have been more on the same page with him. Where I think Lau Kar Leung at that point already had not been directing as much. So it'd probably been like over 10 years since he did 8 Diagram Pole Fighter and Cat v Rat, and had he done New Kids in Town or New Killers in Town?
Yeah, New Killers in Town,
which was super low budget and is very flawed. And he'd done Tiger on the Beat, which was phenomenal.
Did he do an Aces Go Places film as well?
Yeah, he did Aces Go Places 5, but that's not his finest hour. So he wasn't in, I think, maybe in his most confident place, and they were shooting in mainland China, which is really difficult even then at that point. And I think he was probably a lot less comfortable with Mandarin than Jackie Chan was. I think Jackie Chan's Mandarin's much better in a way, and he speaks a bit about that because the guy calls him up on it. The guy who's interviewing him is like, "How come your Mandarin doesn't have like a Cantonese accent?" And Jackie was saying, "Well, Mandarin's actually my first language. That's what my parents always spoke around me." And because the guy was saying to him, "Is this because you'd spent so long shooting in Taiwan and shooting in Korea?" And Jackie's like, no, it's not really to do with that. Like, I've always been more comfortable with Mandarin. Anywhere I go, if I'm there for longer than sort of 2 or 3 months, I start picking up the language. And he was like, when we're shooting Wheels on Meals, I was speaking Spanish. He started speaking Spanish. He's like, and I went to France and was in France, and he started speaking French. He's like, he's just got an ear for language. So I kind of get the sense that on the set, Jackie Chan, it's probably very easy for him to exert what he's used to doing, right? And to kind of take charge and take control. And you see it in the making of when they're working out the gag with the chessboard, and he's sort of basically putting in a joke, and Lau Kar Leung's not quite on the same page with what he's saying, and he's like, because he really wants to labor this point of moving like every single piece of the chessboard. Lau Kar Leung's like, maybe just move 1 or 2. And he's like, no, it'll be funnier if I move all of them and make it really obvious, because my audiences in Japan and Korea won't understand unless we really push the joke, right? So he already has he's got a very clear sense of who his audience is at that point, because he's been directing himself for so long. So it's weird. It's just like a tale of two masters, really. And I guess the Lau Kar Leung diehard in me would have just really liked to see a pure Jackie just submitting a little bit more to what Lau Kar Leung wanted to do, but that's not what we got. And what we got is still awesome.
You've just put the best idea in my head ever. Lau Kar Leung's Die Hard. I would love to see that. That'd be fucking awesome. Speaking of languages and what's spoken in this film, did anyone watch the Warner's release? I swear to God, the subtitles are garbage.
Are they the ones?
You mean the archive?
Warner Archive release.
Okay.
Yeah. Some of it, I was just like, no, this isn't right at all. It seemed really off to me.
Well, Shaun, have you ever seen that video I did right when that came out? I compared the two way back on my YouTube channel. Dragon knows that.
Probably, I probably have.
Yeah, I was kind of addressing, because like in the community, I can't remember which forums, Blu-ray.com and stuff, everyone was so annoyed with those subtitles because it's just the subtitles for the deaf. Yeah, and that was a lot. I mean, I thought the Bruce Exploitation box had a lot of that too, but I remember the Drunken Master 2 from Warner Archive. Oh my gosh, every single twig, every single thing. And I just wish you had the option. I mean, of course you want that there, and people were annoyed that it didn't have that original Cantonese. But I believe this was me and Dragon. We were really talking at this time because we were dealing with a Hong Kong rescue, and like I had to put in this. I remember Dragon's like, "Hey,
sharing trauma."
Well, he wrote me. He's like, "Hey, so where are you at with it?" I was like, "Well, I'm going to do the PayPal dispute, but man, you're way more into." Dragon had like 6 or 5 or 6, like he paid for at the time. And I was only in on this. Yeah. And maybe I'm remembering a little more, but So I had to put the PayPal dispute in, and I guess that can be really bad because if there's a dispute, it's not just that he'll lose my like $20 or $30. I think he can get shut down all his incoming ability and all that. That put the fear of God in him because then, I mean, before I knew it, he had like the tracking number and stuff. But once I got that, I was like, oh, now I see the Warner's archive, especially with the amount of extras, the options on subtitles. It is really nicely designed. I don't know if you have that one, Shaun.
I'm envious. I think I did have it, but I don't have it anymore. I don't know if I sold it or gave it away.
You can still get. There's people selling clones of his clones. So
they're all over the place. I remember though, I did order 2 titles from him. One of them might have been Drunken Master 2. Oh no, it wasn't. It was I ordered 2 titles. It was Police Story 3 and Armor of God.
Okay.
And he sent them to me. I kid you not. Within like 3 weeks, I got them.
Wow. Okay.
I think I got them
early in. You were an early.
I think I got them faster than most people. And I consider myself so lucky because I think we've talked about this on the podcast before. So I don't.
No, we haven't. We've never brought him.
Oh,
up.
we haven't.
No.
Oh, well, fuck that guy.
No, I got in on I call it the Pearl Harbor period when he was like, I was on the last legs. Like people were like, why is he doing Pearl Harbor? And then the whole thing just kind of went off.
Some people just still haven't got their discs, right? Still,
oh no, yeah, he just deleted the website. Yeah.
Oh, wow.
And I think I had my second order was the one that I had big problems with because I'd ordered the Killer and something else second time round.
Shame, really, because he's putting out.
I got it. I ended up getting it in the end, but and one of the discs that he sent was didn't work. Like he sent me Hard Boiled, I think at the same time as Super Cop. And both of one was one way around. So I think with Hard Boiled, the main movie disc didn't work, but the extras disc did. And with Super Cop, other way around, the extras disc didn't work in the main movie. But he ended up sending me replacement discs for those. But I had to like make his life miserable. So I was messaging like 20 times a day and just being an absolute thorn in his side, and ultimately kind of was able to kind of get them. But I don't think I had to do a PayPal dispute on him.
Oh, nice.
Oh, really? That was the move that actually got him. I got the tracking number right after. I didn't do it. I just told him I'm going to do it. Yeah. And then he sent me the tracking number like right away. Because someone taught me that's the move to get him to ship it to you. As you mentioned PayPal dispute in the subject line.
Yeah.
Well, and they told me the subject line because if he's so like getting bombarded, I guess when he saw that capital PayPal dispute, he's like, oh crap, this guy's going to the top.
Yeah.
Nice. Yeah.
I wanted to say, go ahead.
No, go ahead. I was going to go on a completely different tangent.
No, my interesting thing is I like thought the Japanese box set of Drunken Master 2 was really excellent, but when I A/B'd it to, and I know I'm pretty sure that whatever his name is, Jacob from Hong Kong Rescue, he used that to fill in a lot of this final version. I believe.
So. Yeah. But it's weird. There's a few shots dropped in from different sources, and a couple of them look almost like they've been shot off a screen because the aspect ratio goes really wonky, and it almost looks like there's a slight tilt to a couple of the shots. Yeah. I know
on Hong Kong Rescue version.
Yeah. But I think it's literally just for like 2 shots where there's a shot at the end before. In the uncut version, before there's a reveal of him, and he's basically become like. What's the polite way of saying it?
He's like, you got to be careful with your language.
he's handicapped. He's basically giving himself brain damage. But before there's this sort of reveal to that, when you see like Bill from Police Stories there, and they're doing like the sort of celebratory everything's.
Oh, you know what? I did kind of catch that. It kind of
just one shot that's like super weird. It just looks like
I did catch it.
Interesting.
Well, before I go to my point, and because you mentioned it, I got to tell you, I cannot stand that uncut version. That thing of him at the end, I think that is just
really.
Oh my gosh, I think on every level. I know Miramax cut that, and they said because they thought it was distasteful for the American audience.
Yeah.
And I'm like a person who I love, like, I mean, I'm talking like Howard Stern, Andrew Dice Clay. I don't like political correctness. I like bucking against that. You know, I mean, you know what I mean? But I respect that they can do whatever they want. And it's usually I would always go uncut. You know, I'm always like director's cuts. Director's cut can lose flow, but usually I think it's great to have like the uncut version. But I feel like Jackie Chan, it wasn't funny. Like
that's the problem. It's not funny. It's just a shitty gag.
It's a shitty, and he usually is good at being silly and stuff. Like, you know, in all of that 70s stuff, this seemed so tacked on. And I must have been watching when I was younger. My 2 VHS I got, I think, are that Warner Asia version, because I think it has, you know what? I don't even know if it has the camera moment. I think mine's that Warner Asia where he does the bubble and it goes right to the
outtakes.
Oh,
because
really?
So when I heard that the Miramax cut out him when he had gone lost his mind or become handicapped, I thought they were referring to that bubble thing when I was younger, when I read about that. So I thought that's what I'm like, man, that's really sensitive to think that was a problem. So I thought the Miramax just cut there.
Interesting.
But what I will say is that, that ending, I think, is just pointless. I don't like it. I don't think it's funny. And the most egregious part of it is that what I was lacking in the little MacGuffin parts of this with the ginseng, when I felt like that they didn't really sell the importance of that, they kind of threw it in the back room, and you knew Lau Kar-leung was coming to get the seal and all that. I feel like once it became a bigger story where he was standing up not only for his family's honor, he was standing up for all of China against, these tyrants. I was like, wow, okay, now I'm feeling it. It's all coming together. And then to go to that note, it feel like it deflated the whole thing you know what I mean?
It's not honorable anymore. It's just,
it's just everything. I got to tell people, wait, is that on the Warner Archive version too?
It is. It is.
And do you have an option to watch it without?
No.
Man,
Nope.
I don't like that. I really don't. I mean, I don't know how you feel about Dragon, but I just feel it's like
it's an odd ending. It's like, I think but everything about that ending is everything we're saying before. It's an odd ending, because I still ultimately end up getting to the end and just wondering because it leaves a lot of beats unresolved with the kind of the other people. I know they kind of bring back the fishmonger. I think he's at the end, and I think Chin Carlock's there too.
Like you said, he's running with them, but then it changes to just being
if I remember correctly, I believe, I don't know who it is, whether it's Lau Kar-leung. I think it's Jackie himself. He was meant to have a boxing fight with Mark Houghton at the end. So Mark Houghton was meant to be far more prominent in the film, and he was meant to have some sort of boxing match with Jackie Chan. And there's a brilliant story, and I hope I'm okay telling this because it comes from the lips of the man himself. It comes from Mark Houghton. And by that point, Lau Kar-leung and Jackie had fallen out. And he basically set up Jackie. He told Mark Houghton, put on your gloves, and what we're going to do is we're going to have a little fight with Jackie, and you're going to hit him. You're going to hit him on the chin. And Lau Kar-leung went to Jackie and said, is it okay if he hits you for real? And Jackie goes, yeah, sure. It's going to look better if he hits me for real. They're padded gloves, so I should be okay. And he hit Jackie. And Lau Kar-leung, for the next 5 takes, kept going, more power, more power, more power, until his last hit, he knocked Jackie clean out. And, he knocked him complete out. There's a brilliant interview with Mark Houghton over in the UK, where shout out to Rodney Dennis. I think he was there. And it's a brilliant interview where Mark Houghton tells that story. And he said he just knocked him clean out, and he believes that it was Lau Kar-leung going, let's get Jackie. Let's get him now. So very interesting.
Well, now hold on. I need to stop the press on this because this is like a big thing for me in the whole story. So, Shaun, are you saying that did they specify that maybe was when the filming stopped and they went separate ways off of that?
I think from what I've gathered, and I believe, don't quote me on this, but I think Mark Houghton basically implies that Lau Kar-leung was on the way out by then. And basically, I from what I've gathered, Lau Kar-leung left the production and Mark Houghton stayed behind for a little bit, but then he said, no, I can't shoot with you anymore because my master isn't shooting with you. So Mark Houghton had to leave the project, hence why he just disappears randomly right towards the end. So
I think it's when because that's on. They also mentioned that a little bit on the commentary track as well, where Mark Houghton basically refused to go to Hong Kong. Because when the production moved to Hong Kong, he just didn't go. So that was maybe the very tail end of the mainland China shooting.
Maybe. I just wonder about all the footage that has gone missing. There's a brilliant still as well. All it is a still image. And I think it's filmed just before the tea house, or it looks like it's maybe in the tea house, but it's Jackie doing full Tiger Claw. and he's like posing with a tiger claw. I was just like, oh, what did we miss there? Like, was there some
I know that gets you going when you see those shapes.
Of course. I
could see Shaun lighting up there.
Yeah, and I think Mark Houghton's actually in. I think I'll have to look at the photo again. But yeah, I wondered, oh my God, did he do Tiger Style at some point? But I wonder how much footage is missing.
Well, what I wanted to say is like I felt like when I read I Am Jackie Chan in 1998, I felt like when I read that they like went their separate ways, and of course Jackie Chan, I think there's a thing about saving face in Chinese culture, like Dragon knows in the Chang Che book, like with all their stuff going on, they still give each other props like out in the open, you know what I mean, as much as they can, and kind of like sweep things under the rug. So I don't know if it was in that book, because when I went back to it today, there's not much to it. He just says, yeah, we had a difference of opinions on certain things. Like it's actually maybe less than that. He kind of does like a synopsis at the end of the book, I Am Jackie Chan. And he says he still appreciates what he did on the film. But somewhere along the line, I start picking up people saying like they had a falling out, like you said. I believe at one point I ran that by you, Dragon. You said I wouldn't call it maybe that. I think it kind of just, they went separate ways. And then, like, when I listened to the commentary, that kind of reinforced what Dragon said. He said, there's a lot of people saying that they, like, had a falling out. But he said maybe later there was some bitterness. But he feels that they just basically it went over schedule. And then because of that, Lau Kar-leung just decided to leave because it was, like, going way over schedule or something.
I just always got it, like, they had this extra little bit of time earmarked that they knew they were always going to shoot in Hong Kong. And I don't know if Lau Kar-leung was ever meant to be a part of that process, but that's where they did all that kind of last real stuff that we were speaking about earlier on with Ken Lo and Inside the Factory. That kind of like last reel of the movie, if you like. I don't know where the kind of affected brain shots at the very end comes into that. I assume that was probably something that they picked up at that point, but hard to say. Because that had a few other Jackie's sort of regulars in it, like kind of all of a sudden Uncle Bill's there and he's not been in the whole rest of the movie, right? And so that felt very much, and he's definitely in Hong Kong and in Hong Kong all the time mostly. So hard to say. I think it's an odd one. And I think adding further fuel to the fire is the fact that Lau Kar-leung then went off and made Drunken Master 3, which is that was for me, that was I'm going to take my ball and go home moment. That's what really like made me feel like, oh, you know what? You're going to finish this. Well, I'm doing Drunken Master 3. All the elements are
there.
A bit
of a fail though, wasn't it? Really, Drunken Master 3 is not great.
I never saw it.
Slightly with the Drunken Monkey, which Drunken Monkey's. I try and forget about Drunken Master 3, and I want to see that.
I think we should maybe cover that. I mean, if you guys are already like really like, don't you feel that one's like not talked about and it's not like easy to access? I don't
Drunken
feel
Monkey
like
or Drunken Master 3.
Sorry, Drunken Master 3.
Good reason. It's a terrible movie. It's not good.
it's not good. It has a few moments in it. I don't think I have a copy. I don't think I'd know where to find it right now.
I think I've got a DVD maybe. And
really?
I'm sure you might be able to find a horrible version of it on YouTube.
But that's what I'm trying to say. Well, okay, but that's what I'm trying to say. It's, I guess maybe because it's not. I mean, but there's a lot of movies like Magnificent Wanderers coming out now, and that's been beat to death. There, everyone says that's Shang-Chi's like worst. But what? Like, so I'm saying it's just a little strange, even if it's Lau Kar-leung's worst, that it's not, I don't know, that 88 didn't just try to like toss it out there or something. It seems don't you feel along the years it's been really not talked about a lot and it's kind of forgotten? That's how I felt.
Kind of. It came out on DVD through Optimum Asia here at the same sort of time that they were kind of putting out some sort of random kind of scattershot different releases from different places. That they were doing some stuff from Korea and some stuff from Japan, and I think it's the Optimum Asia DVD that I've got somewhere. I'll have to check and see if I do still have. I think I do, but
I think I used to have that.
It's a tough sit. And I think Drunken Monkey.
Give me a little. Tell me what if you could sum up like what's the problem with Drunken Master 3? Because Lau Kar-leung, was he maybe like because he was sick and he was like not firing on all cylinders?
No, it's hard
to
say.
Or does Drunken Master 3 also have a lack of action? Like a truly decent action,
kind of a little bit, yeah. I think, and I'm trying to remember. It's Andy Lau is the sort of one of the main actors in it. Who's not normally
the villain.
Yeah. And Andy Lau has kind of over the years periodically done kind of bits and pieces of action, but he's never really been that guy. I think he's as good as whichever choreographer he's working with at the time, and they'll kind of give him moves that will help kind of sell what he can do. And I think Shanghai 13 he does really well in, and he's in one of the Lucky Stars movies, and he does great in that too. But I think this was just, I don't know. I think he was maybe also a bigger star at that point. I don't know how much time he had. I don't know. There's a lot of unanswered questions about Drunken
I need
Master
to see
3.
this. I don't know. I'm fascinated. It's kind
worth
of like
a watch. It's definitely worth a watch. Although I imagine if we're going to get a release of anything, it would be Drunken Monkey. Wasn't that co-produced by Shaw Brothers?
Yeah, it was Shaw's supposed return to feature filmmaking.
Okay. So we might get a release of that one day. But yeah, Drunken Master 3, I don't know. But I'd definitely pick it up just to see it again.
When I was younger, I thought that the movie was kind of like linear, where it would be, it was like Lau Kar-leung was the train scene through the tea house, and then when he dies, then it goes to like a Jackie Chan film at the end. That's kind of how I saw it, you know. But watching the commentary, I can't believe how hodgepodged all this stuff is. Like it's one scene that's Lau Kar-leung, then it's Jackie Chan, then it's that other guy, Frankie. I can't remember his name. Like Frankie another. Chan? Yes, he. Yeah, they on the commentary it said he directed a small scene with, I think maybe the it was the scene where T. Leung grabbed the wine and forced him to drink it.
He's actually listed as, on Hong Kong Movie Database, he's actually listed as like the executive director or something.
Yeah,
I think.
Well, and that's what the commentary said. Well, no, that is because on the commentary said you won't see that in America, because America, I don't think you can even have two directors.
Yeah.
So it's to say a Lau Kar-leung film and a Jackie Chan film directed by Lau Kar-leung, executive director. You won't see that in America.
That's funny. On the Warner Archive version, it starts up by saying Drunken Master 2, a Lau Kar-leung film. And then later on, it says directed by Jackie Chan or something like that.
Exactly.
It's just like, whose is it?
Each version switches that. The Miramax version, which I actually want to talk about. I have an interesting thing to say. I know. But wrapping up what I was saying, those on the commentary, I could not believe that I was so wrong. Like it's each scene was said, this is Lau Kar-leung, he shot this. It was all broken down, and it's like scene after scene. Like when it goes to the one you like with the purse, that's Jackie Chan. But I thought like the ending was more Jackie Chan, and maybe I don't know, the fight where I can't remember. Like there was a couple that I thought was more Jackie Chan in the beginning. I thought it was obvious, but it wasn't. It was shot all out of order.
Yeah, it was a mess. The whole thing was. I mean, at one point, I'm sure we all know this, that Donnie Yen was attached as the villain at some point. And also, you mentioned it earlier, Dragon, that the lead villain in this, he just disappeared. I mean, he was injured, right? He got an injury to his back, so he couldn't continue. But the fact that he just steps aside for Ken. Thank God he does step aside for Ken Lo, because Ken Lo is incredible in this film.
He is.
But yeah, it just seems like there was just a lot of circumstances that could have made this absolutely disastrous, but they somehow strung it together, and for some reason it still came out on top.
I know. One thing on Ken Lo there, I'll say, I think from watching a lot of UFC and like when you watch a lot of those leg kicks, and it really makes you see some of those kung fu kicks, how that wouldn't be. There's a reason they're not used in the UFC a lot. You know, they do a lot more Muay Thai and whipping and attacking the legs. When I saw that Ken Lo scene that I loved when I was 15, and even when I watched it at 21, it started feeling a little more like maybe point karate-ish or something. Like there's just a moment where Jackie Chan's up against that desk, and he's like, Papa, Papa. It's like a little bit of like a pitter-patter aspect. I'm like, oh, I don't know. It felt a little bit like you're watching a Taekwondo, like point.
Wasn't hard enough for you.
That's what he was. It was Muay Thai. It was kickboxing. He did professionally, right?
Yep. Mm-hmm.
Okay, yeah, but a lot of his kicks are great, especially there's that spin. I mean, there's a lot of power, but in that moment, maybe he was doing it to be like kind of like a jab and toying with him, but it just seemed really like I don't know, it just felt like point karate for a second. It kind of was like, oh, and then it regained its footing though.
It's so interesting how we look at these films when we're young and then change. I swear to God, if you would have asked me in my teenage years, I would have told you Drunken Master 2 features no wire work whatsoever. I would have gone to my grave fighting that there's no wire work in this film. And now these days I'm just like, oh wow, there is a lot of wire work in this
I think I'm lacking an eye for that, because every time he said there's wire work in the commentary, I didn't catch it. I mean, of course, knowing his leg, when Ken Lo's leg's up, it's obvious, like, you know, unless you had the best like thigh master. I don't know if you guys remember that. There's a commercial for this. But Yeah, I just I
Jackie gets helped out a lot in this.
Yeah.
Okay, I wouldn't blame you for it though, because it wasn't like I don't know, it wasn't like the '90s problems with some of those movies flying around type of.
No, it's really
Yeah.
good. It's really decent wire work.
And it's a lot of the time it's just to kind of help them hold like, a lot of his drunken poses at really exaggerated angles.
Absolutely. Yeah.
So he's like after the bag snatch, the purse snatch sequence, after he's kind of first got drunk, he's like
he comes up on one leg.
Yeah.
Well, that's what I needed, because you know what it was, Dragon. You answered it, because the problem was we said, "Oh, there's some wire work." I'm looking at the guy he hit, because I'm expecting the guy, like when he's fighting the guy with that chain or whatever, the French guy at the end. I'm watching him to expect and I rewound it. And I'm trying to see if he flew exaggerated, but you're saying. Okay, but even when I did look at Jackie, it's subtle, right? It's not like always like some crazy.
Yeah. And I'd heard some of that they did with an angled floor as well. So like some of the crazy leans, and you can see in some of the sequences where they just don't shoot too low. Because I think if they did shoot too low, you'd see that they're really on a.
That's so interesting. I haven't spotted that, but I love that. I love that they did that, because it's not egregious at all. It's very decent.
Yeah.
But Shaun, I wonder, like, it's interesting because when I listen to the commentary, I start thinking, okay, they got along. There's a little bitterness later. When you drop this knocking out thing, I don't know. Maybe, who knows? Maybe it'll be news articles saying like,
yeah. Just honestly, I'll send you the link to the interview. It's like I think it's Mark Houghton talking for about like an hour and a half.
And he's the main American guy, right?
He's the Guilo, yeah.
He's the guy
not the main one, not the bearded one. No. Yeah, the blonde one.
Okay. The blonde one.
Do you not know Mark Houghton? Like, Mark Houghton was basically like...
Is it Houghton or Houghton?
I'm never too sure. I think it's
okay. I could be saying it wrong.
Tomato a little bit. I think we can get away with it. I'm sure Mark won't mind. But he can sometimes get called White Tiger. But there's a documentary on Skinny Tiger Fairy Dragon disc. If you got the special edition, it came with a separate documentary that's him speaking about his experiences, because he basically was Lau Garlung's last pupil. Yeah. And he right up into his death, and he's kind of basically carrying on Lau Garlung's school, really. So if you go across and want to train at what was Lau Garlung's Kung Fu school, Mark Houghton and his daughter now are heavily involved in keeping that school continuing to run. So he's got amazing stories. And I think, Shaun, you're talking about when he did the Kung Fu Cafe. He came over and did Ricky's Kung Fu Cafe in London.
Exactly. He went later on. He went into a back room and like chatted with everyone, and they just like hurled questions at him. And I think he's just very candid.
Yeah, he is, and is in the documentary too. But I think with taking a pinch of that salt, I've got like a tiny little thing that I found in one of the random little special features in that Hong Kong Rescue disc about the origins of drunken boxing, right? And
cool.
I think there's this thing sometimes where people love to take credit for stuff, and you're a little bit suspicious about. Really? So they basically, it's a very short interview with a guy called Leung, who is a martial artist, but also the editor of a magazine called Real Kung Fu Magazine, which I think was a Hong Kong-based publication, so a kind of Chinese magazine. And he says that in 1969, he decided to have a kind of show conference of a bunch of different kind of Kung Fu masters. He wanted to bring them all together to have like an exhibition. And Ip Man was there. There was a kind of bunch of other masters, and he'd invited a Taoist Kung Fu master there. And for the purposes of display, this Taoist Kung Fu master presented Drunken Fist, right, in what we think of it as being in its kind of purest sense, right? The version that you kind of see people doing the distinct, recognizable moves of it. And he said that he loved it so much that he did a feature on the guy and took a bunch of pictures, especially a kind of a picture of him with the cup drinking pose, and put that on the front cover of the magazine. And he said that he was round seeing his doctor, and at the doctor's office he had a copy of his magazine with him, and he bumped into Yuen Wu-ping. And after he met Yuen Wu-ping, the movie that Yuen Wu-ping was working, this was a couple of years after the conference, I think, and after the magazine had come out, the movie that Yuen Wu-ping was working on at that time all of a sudden changed its name from whatever it was going to be called to Drunken Master. So basically he indirectly took credit for basically introducing, and then there's pictures of Jackie Chan standing beside this guy, so, and a bunch of stuff that could be viewed as receipts. So potentially
Wow.
I thought it was much older than that. I thought it like got its origins from Shaolin, back in the day.
Well, if it was a Taoist instructor, then it would kind of certainly be kind of older style, and I've certainly seen a bunch of Shaolin monks demonstrating that. But there's kind of modern Shaolin that we kind of see, and they're doing a lot of exhibitions, and the temple's open for people to go over and study. And kind of what they're teaching now is a weird, very movie-inspired version of kind of, I think, what they used to do. So I think it's become something a little bit different, and a lot of it is kind of more for just sort of display purposes and stuff. But I don't know. But anyway, Leung certainly seems to have been the one that, although he didn't say he came up with the style, he credits himself with introducing it to Yuen Wu-ping. And then
is it me, or is the original Drunken Master, the Chinese translation actually refers to it as Drunken Monkey? Am I wrong? Maybe on Hong Kong Movie Database it'll give you the actual literal translation.
Because I just rewatched. Me, Caleb, and Leon did the top 70s Jackie Chan movies, so I rewatched Drunken Master, and I'm pretty sure I didn't watch the dub, but I don't remember Drunken Monkey.
I think it's the.
Wait, what'd you say? The Drunken Monkey? Okay.
Yeah, I think it's the exact Chinese translation.
I think you're right. It's Drunk Monkey and the Tiger's Eyes.
Yeah, I thought it. And also on that behind the scenes feature, Jackie Chan says we're exhibiting Drunken Monkey. He actually says monkey. So I don't know whether it's kind of originally, because it doesn't look like Monkey Fist. It looks very different to Monkey Fist. So I don't know. I think that's interesting.
There is versions of that in Mad Monkey Kung Fu. You kind of see a sort of, and I wonder if that's Lau Ga-lung kind of expressing the more sort of traditional form of it in that place, because he's messed around with it a couple of times. It's in Heroes of the East.
Heroes from the East, yeah.
And there's also at the end of that little interview with that guy, there's a compilation of like all the different appearances over the years of kind of drunken boxing and in Kung Fu movies that you would love, Shaun, because
I'm sure I would.
Many a shape being thrown.
You know what they think? I think they should have. This is gonna sound like a Super Mario Brothers plot, but I think they should have maybe like kidnapped Anita Moy and taken her into that thing. It needed something a little more. Do you know what I mean? Because like he was fighting for honor, and in a way, he was fighting for China. That was great. It was, but I guess maybe also because it ended on such a bad scene, it didn't give the resolve to show like, okay, did these guys like, did this make them stop smuggling all these goods out? You just assume that it resolved because he it ends on such odd moments with the bubbles, and then him acting though it's like, dude, what happened with all, like, you know what I mean? It has like a lot of untied shoelaces at the end sitting there, and you're like,
that's very true.
So I just wish like because here's another thing with it. I'll tell you. So I used to order in 1995 from this company in Ohio called Advantage Video. And I swear this guy, I never met him, but he like had my best interest. He would always see me ordering 2 Champions of Shaolin, all these. He would just nudge me. He's kind of like you guys in a way, but he would always nudge me. And like, he goes, hey, and I'd have to pay for some of it, but he would say, you should buy this book. I think you'd love it. And that's when I bought the book that I gave you a copy of, Dragon, the Encyclopedia of Martial Arts movies, Rick Myers and a couple of the Palmers and stuff. And I was like, oh my gosh, I that blew my mind. And then he said, I want to send you Drunken Master 2. And this was, I can't remember how we were just, this was very long ago, 30 years ago now. And he sent it to me on 2 VHS. And I don't know why it was separated, because this movie's only an hour and 40 minutes long. I have no idea why it was on 2.
Maybe one of the 60-minute VHSs.
Yeah, maybe.
It was like a long play tape. A lot of the tapes were like 45
Well, maybe he was giving me high quality, maybe, like put in an SP mode or something. I think I still have them for sure. It was what'd you say?
Jesus.
What?
You don't throw away anything, son.
Well, no, I keep a lot of stuff, especially those VHS. I can't toss those out. I just can't. Those.
I get it. Yeah. I get it. I had to get rid of my VHS collection. I regret it.
Space.
Oh, you guys, it's wow, it's literally something to carry. Like, it's like I did a video showing all the bootlegs. I just love all those old ones. But he would send me those 2. The 2 copies, and like I said, it blew my mind. And what I would do is I invite my friends over, and I put it on, because you're like 15 or 16, you're not going to show them the whole thing, because some people weren't as into kung fu movies. I put it on this point where they're all rushing, and they throw the snakes to get the guns, where they're about to like rush in. I couldn't even believe I was blowing minds left to right. I mean, these guys, maybe I'd showed them like something a little less than this. And when I got this, I was like, dude, sit down. And that's like without fail, especially with like teenagers, I would just blow minds left. Anytime people were hanging out, I would show them that ending. And that's why I still, when I watch it, I just can't believe, like, when I watch Drunken Master, I've seen that, but it's not every beat of that plays off like a song to me. I just like, here's this move, here's that move, and it's blows my mind. But that's why I have to say, I just felt the story something. I was ready to tell you guys, like, I think this beat Heroes of the East, I think this is number one as it was going, and it slowly deflated. And with Anita Moy's great, and it just was like, I kept thinking it felt like an episode of Seinfeld shoehorned in between like the best fight scenes of all time. Like even when it gets to the amazing tea house, it's like, I guess it was a mixture. It felt like they no longer wanted to get him not just for that seal. They also wanted to get him because he was like beat up some guys, right? It was like more elements to it. The Axe Gang didn't feel like they just wanted the seal. They just wanted to kill him.
And they'd just been hired. They were just given money to go after him.
Right.
They'd just been paid. But I think, I don't know. I don't know if part of it is the fact that there's a big suspension of disbelief required to look at a 40-year-old man as a young troublemaking Wong Fei Hung. And I think I kind of feel they should have maybe just leaned into, because they try, like, all the other people around him who are meant to be kind of quite young too are all, thankfully they've cast older actors. It would be super weird if Jackie was running around with a bunch of like teenagers and 20-year-olds, because he's still meant to be like, for the age that it's at, and like him and T Leung almost the same age. And I think they do allude to the fact that Anita Moy is like not his biological mom, she's like stepmom, but she's like probably, I think, younger than
10 years. She's 10 years younger than him. Well, yeah, it's odd. It's odd that T Leung is 8 years older than him. He's his biological dad, and his stepmom is 10 years, 9 years maybe. He's 40, and when he was 40 and she was like 31.
Yeah.
She was like 31, but what I had to do is that thing where they love to do that in Chinese movies, where they'll have a blatant girl, they'll just put like a vest on, and everyone says, "Oh, hello, sir." Like they have that element in Shaw Brothers, so it's like, okay, this is rolling along with that just because they're saying it, and they put a mustache on T Leung, like.
And he did great. I mean, he's a treat seeing him here, and I kind of feel like I need to preface all of this as I feel it. I sometimes need to do when I feel like we're giving a movie a bit of a kick, and all of us absolutely fucking love this movie, right?
Love it. Yes.
And at this point, we're indulging ourselves in the fact that this is our safe space for us to nitpick and kind of go into stuff in kind of slightly more meticulous detail than we probably would. And I'm sure that's partly why I've had this perspective on it again, because I knew we were going to be doing this. So I've kind of almost gone into it with my most critical kind of mind on it. And pretty much the first hour, I was speaking with you, Jason, last night about a whole bunch of other stuff at the same time the movie was going on, and I wasn't missing any beats because there wasn't a whole amount to miss. So after we got past that initial kind of like train fight and the kind of great little chase around the train, and there's also like even just Andy Lau's presence in the movie, because Andy Lau's a huge star at that point, and then again at a certain point he's just gone,
disappears.
Yeah,
well, that's why it's almost like a thought experiment, or right there, what you caught on to, Dragon. The weird thing is, if you look at this as a blueprint, like everyone's sitting in a room, right? Oh my gosh, you got T Leung, and finally now we have Lau Kar-Leung, Golden Harvest meeting with Shaw Brothers. Everything on paper your head should explode. But what do you guys feel is the element? For me, what it is the storyline. Like when you take Enter the Game of Death, in Bruceploitation, they just sort of hunting. They take a document as the I say MacGuffin a lot in this episode, because I feel like that's what they kind of did. They used a device to create all these fight scenes, Otherwise, I mean, but then they started to, it got more enriched whenever it was, I felt like they should have leaned into that more. He wanted to buy his land, and now he's going to use his uncle. I can't remember his uncle, or no, they had Jackie, and whenever they were going to kill him, but they said, let's use him as leverage to buy T Leung's land. At that moment, so that gave it a little more to it. And then like T Leung was so offended, and he was fighting for the honor, like I said, of all that. That's when it started getting there. But for you guys, what do you think it was? Was it just the thin plot? What makes this not work when you see T Leung, Lau Kar-Leung, Jackie Chan? The fight scenes still blow my head off. I mean, they're still unreal.
Yeah,
I think what is not gelling here? What is not gelling?
I don't know.
Go ahead.
I think it's getting pulled in a few different directions, and you can see like there's a couple of the seeds of them trying to lean into the kind of like the heroism or the man of the people element of Wong Fei-hung, right? And they actually do this pretty successfully towards the end, where he stops mid-fight to like put out one of the workers that's been set on fire, and like one of the other dudes goes to attack him when he's trying to, and he just sort of like basically looks at the guy like, "What the fuck are you doing, man? I'm trying to save your mate." Right? And
that was cool.
Yeah, right. And
yeah,
so you can, that I feel they kind of helped sell that by earlier on when the workers were trying to leave at night, and the sort of secondary henchman is told to call them all back, right? And so they're starting to become more oppressive. They're trying to kind of work them harder. So I kind of feel if they lent more into the fact that they were really making slaves almost of the Chinese who were working for them to sell out their own history and their own culture by kind of selling these antiques away. But it was weird that organization or that criminal enterprise was also running at this sort of smelting plant. And why was that the base of operations, and why were they so invested in what the smelting plant was
I almost
doing?
didn't even think that. See, that's one to see what you guys
just needed a lair of some sort, just some lair.
Yeah, they just needed a sort of base. But whereas I think they maybe could have like it was just getting pulled in a few different directions. Like, and I think when we know that it's been quite a scattershot production, and like Shaun says, it is a marvel that it's as coherent and together as it is.
Yeah.
But it's just like a jigsaw puzzle where you've made an image, but it's maybe not the image on the box that you thought you were going to make, right? So the pieces have somehow fitted together, but you've had to force a few, and you've had to cut some of the pegs off the other ones just to ram it into the hole where it can sort of fit. So I think I don't know. I see the adult in me sees what could have been, where the kid in me was right there with you, Jason. I was showing this to my mates in my teenage years, and totally blown as many minds back then too, right?
Oh, cool. Yeah.
I find that interesting. I think, there's a reason why non-martial arts cinema fans watch this film and say it's the best martial arts film of all time.
Mm-hmm.
Because as much as the plot maybe, I don't want to use the word flimsy, but maybe it isn't as it doesn't have as much depth as it could have. I think it's very easy to watch this film and go, well, the plot's bollocks. Let's just watch the fights and love the fights, right? But I think someone who's more well-versed in martial arts cinema may be looking for that something extra, because we know the fights are good. We are invested in the fights, and that's kind of what we're there for. But we've gone beyond the fight scenes, We're actually looking for a plot. So I think it's interesting that I don't know. I think it's a perfect nugget of martial arts action, but something like Once Upon a Time in China, in my opinion, does the kind of heroic Wong Fei-hung better than this. Even the end of this, where it's he's fighting for his honor of his country, etc. I still think like Once Upon a Time in China does a little better than this. But on the flip side of that, you could say, or some people could say, Once Upon a Time in China, in comparison, is a bit flabby plot-wise, whereas this is, the ideal kung fu film because it has so many fights. So I think it's easy to see from either side, but it also depends on what type of viewer you are, because in the past, I have watched this film and not given a single shit about the plot and loved every single second because it's just so enjoyable.
I think that's what it is, especially when I was 15. You know what I mean?
Exactly.
Like, I was the guy, I never would fast forward just to the fights, except for when the friends would come over, because I'm not going to make them watch a 2-hour movie,
Right.
But there was another thing, and I love training. I always go back to that. There was a moment in the commentary, they said Jackie, what he wanted to do was get rid of the scene where Lau Kar-leung was killed. And when they had loose plans, or that's where it kind of fell apart. He didn't want to come back to finish it in Hong Kong, but they wanted, when he came back, to have him help teach him the drunken fist. I think they said teach him the drunken fist correctly. And that's what would have really lit me up. I thought that's what's missing. We needed that
training sequence.
Yes, we needed training sequences.
Needed a goddamn training sequence.
And before I forget, I wanted to say that's a great point, guys. I love to see everyone's like what you would have changed a bit or what it's missing. And what I wanted to say is, watching this, I get a little sensitive to the sounds of the fight. I felt like the soundtrack was a little louder than like the hits parts on the Hong Kong version. And I know that's like a Wong Fei Hong like classic theme, and it's like they know that song. So I get the importance of it. So I said, I hated Miramax. I was so against that version. Like anyone who watched that, I had like a cringe. I was like, guys, don't watch that. But here's what's changed on it. In America, you weren't in America in the 90s, right, Shaun?
No.
You came like in the early 2000s, I believe.
Yeah.
Okay. You guys know that, like, so Rumble in the Bronx, that was like Jackie Chan moment. He cracked America. It was insane. And we were in the parking lot fighting, and I had like known this was coming in a way because I had read about Jackie like trying, with the Protector and all that. And it was happening. It felt odd because I actually had Rumble in the Bronx from that guy too, Advantage Video, before. And I was like, they're choosing this one. Something didn't quite make sense why this is the one that broke him. But in the theater, it did make sense. It was great. The fights are phenomenal. And then they did, what was it next? They did Super Cop. I saw that like 3 or 4 times. I couldn't even believe it. Mind blown. Then me and my dad, we went to see, then I saw First Strike, and I think I saw that first. He was slain in the theaters. I'm talking packed theaters, and every time we're in the parking lot, like 16, like fight, like doing the moves, And then me and my dad went to see Mr. Nice Guy, and it was kind of like, it started to slip a little bit. Like that didn't hit the same way. Like, what I mean? I remember the Bulldozer finale, and I looked at my dad.
No final fight. How are you not going to have Jackie versus Richard Norton properly at the end?
Yes. And Richard Norton could have been in this too as a general. I could see that, like them putting him in this, I almost said Ed Norton. Earlier, I was going to say Ed Norton. I'm like, what's the guy's name that could have fit in this? Like,
Jackie versus Ed Norton.
So then that was
Ed
like
Norton does jiu-jitsu. Could have been good.
Oh. Yes. Yeah. So then there was a gap. So 97 was like Mr. Nice Guy. And then they released in 2000 Legend of Drunken Master. But I don't think it was in the theaters in Pittsburgh, maybe in New York City, in different places. I don't think. And that's when it just was like, I watched it and something felt off. But when I went to watch it now on the extra, it had a lot more thud to it. They added like bass on the hits. I was like, I like that, but it didn't have enough. Like, Dragon, did you watch the comparison of the audio, that extra? No. So there's an extra on Hong Kong Rescue where this guy kind of berates Miramax, and he shows the differences scene by scene. You should check it out. It's pretty interesting. But what he shows is that, I mean, I'm talking, this is like breaking down the Zapruder film. They really break this down. He goes, watch this. Then he shows 8 hits on the Hong Kong version. Then he seamlessly goes to the Miramax, and you only hear 4 or 5 hits because they didn't put in as much. But it's funny, those, they put Jackie Chan, he went into like an ADR room, and he's going, oh, and it's all Jackie's voices. So it's very odd because you can see hits that aren't getting sounds, but it did have the thud that I wanted. I wanted a little more of that, like, because sometimes when you watch certain like indie kung fu movies, it's way too much. It's like Streets of Rage on Genesis or something. It's like the loudest like hit. But so I will say Miramax, the quality on it is, I do like that they cut the ending. I do like the name Legend of Drunken Master. I can hang with that. I hate that it's evolved with Miramax and the guys behind the scenes there. Of course, we don't need to get into that. Yeah. No, but I mean, but that's hindsight, because I loved all this Tarantino movie. I can separate the things. No one knew
you have
about
to.
this.
Yeah.
But I will. But like the way he chopped up a lot of stuff, I was surprised this wasn't as chopped up. They altered the aspect a bit. And I guess there's a scene where he's singing, where they use different alternate takes on that song where he does, I can't remember the name of it, but something, whatever, we sing in with that guy playing the instrument. But what I will say is the Miramax wasn't as appalling. I hated that thing to death, but watching, I was like, okay, I could see why people were still saying, hey, I love that one. My father said to me, oh, I watched Legend of Drunken Master. I was one to say, Dad, no, not that one. But it's actually not that different. It is, it's cool to hear Jackie's voice, and I like that. But yeah, Drunken Master too, even with the like whenever Ken Lo's doing those kicks and stuff and he goes to the table, it's like not that much of a noise. I sometimes want a big, strong like hit noise, I want the raid sound effects, But yeah, guys, I mean, I love breaking this down. It's interesting. And I was surprised that my overall opinion went down. I somehow didn't hate Miramax. I didn't think I would have landed on that, But rewatching Drunken Master recently, that kind of went down in my view too. Strange. When I rewatched, and that's a whole
Sneak and Eagle Shadow.
Oh yeah, me too. But I guess what it was is that the training was too much in Drunken Master, where the villain was gone for so long that by the time it got back to him, it just lost the effect of him like hovering over everything, you know? Like in Fearless Hyena, whenever that guy's walking with those two dudes in capes, I mean, they're killing people. It's always there. So it's like, train harder, come on. He trains for so long and he's trying to help the dude with his shakes and all this stuff. By the time it gets to the villain, it's like, oh, this is the guy. I felt like it's too long of a stretch a bit.
I need to revisit Fearless Hyena. It's been a long time.
I know. I'm one to talk it up. I know Dragon sometimes is.
I prefer Young Master over Fearless Hyena. I think like Young Master is like the perfect sort of. I know that some people always say that like Dragon Lord was the almost like he's got the seed of what he would evolve into. So you can see it moving more into kind of like he's conceiving big stunts rather than being concerned with fights. But Young Master was like the kind of perfect blend of. I still think that's his best period. Set martial arts movie.
I may agree. I may agree with you there.
I think one guy we've not mentioned, and I feel we'd be remiss to do this if given we've been speaking about Lau Gar-lung, because his other Wong Fei-hung movies, I think, make my viewing of this now negatively impact as a result. Because when I first saw Drunken Master 2 and the original Drunken Master, I hadn't seen Lau Gar-lung's other Wong Fei-hung movies. And so now I kind of have. And so now it's weird for me seeing the character not being played by Gordon Liu, because I think Gordon Liu might still be my favorite cinematic Wong Fei-hung. Like,
really?
I think so. I think so. Like Challenge of the Masters and then Martial Club. And I think Challenge of the Masters, especially because it's got that kind of master-student relationship that you love doing.
Yeah.
And it's kind of like a much more, he starts out as the sort of bratty, obnoxious version of Wong Fei-hung that kind of Jackie's channeling, but then we get to see him kind of basically evolve into the more refined and kind of basically a little bit more savvy character after he's kind of been trained in Challenge of the Masters. And,
that's what you didn't get in Drunken Master. He was the brat throughout, and he was less of that in this. He was way more likable.
Sure. You know? Yeah, 100%. Yeah. But I don't know. It's weird. So I guess it's kind of like hindsight's always 20/20. But I think I could watch it again next week and probably have a much better time if I didn't agree.
Couldn't agree more.
Probably if I didn't have, I don't want to call it pressure because I love sitting down and talking about this shit with you. So it's not remotely pressure. But if I didn't have the knowing that I was kind of going into doing the pod about it, I probably just would have watched it just as if I was watching it. And this time around, I didn't do that. I had
like if you were going to write a review and watch a movie, you watch it way more differently if you just pop it on a Saturday. Like if you have, because you want the insight, you want the critical eye, and that sometimes makes things a little more glaring than versus you know how it goes. It's kind of like I often say like when you're in like all things like playing in a band. Behind the scenes thing, sometimes it's strange. Like when I watch like Evil Dead, like the behind the scenes, I love that stuff. But it's sometimes it's hard to get back to a full audience mode when you're thinking of how it was made. Do you know what I mean? Like when you see the behind the scenes, it can kind of spoil a little bit. Like there's songs on guitar, like when I learn it, I'm like, oh, it's that simple that I can never hear it the same way because oh crap, it's that simple. You know what I mean? It's like
my brain is always in spot the stunt double mode, and I have to turn that off. Because I'm always, especially with kung fu films, I'm always spotting stunt doubles.
I think that better be a new segment on your YouTube. So
I have to flick the switch, especially with Jackie Chan films as well, because Jackie famously, back in the day, no one thought he used stunt doubles. Obviously, we know different now, but watching Jackie Chan films now, I'm just like, there's Chin Kar Luck.
There was another thing we were talking about. Oh, when you were talking about Gordon Liu there, I feel like somehow we haven't talked about him much on the podcast too much, unless I'm missing something. Right.
We'll get there.
I feel like I need to give Gordon Liu more props and talk about him more because what it is that I love the Venoms to death. It's almost like a whole package. I'm just Venom. But when I go to break down my favorite kung fu movies, it's 36 Chamber of Shaolin. It's Heroes of the East. It is Drunken Master 2. It's still hanging up there. It just kind of dropped a little bit. Yeah. And of course it's crippled Avengers, but you'd think I'd have like 5 Venoms thing in the top 5. But I have to say there's something about Gordon Liu that's just so magical. His presence, his delivery, his charm, he transcends, he has like a look to him that I think just transcends. He has that like Shaun offers star quality. A lot of them have that, but I have to say in the Venoms and stuff like Guak, I could see Gordon Liu going off into like different dramas and things. He has that like
a little bit.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah.
So I feel like I feel like we don't give him, like when you brought him up, I'm like, wow, we haven't talked. I guess the Dirty Ho was a stream before, when we did that one.
I love him. I love him so much. So, I do particularly love his Wong Fei-hung. And I think if anyone's looking to do a great double bill, watch Drunken Master 2 at the same time as watching Challenge of the Masters.
On two screens.
Not simultaneously, but watch it in a double bill, double feature for like two great Wong Fei-hung movies. Because the more easy comparison to make is, because they came out at the same sort of time, is to look at Once Upon a Time in China. And I always feel they're kind of their own thing, because they're so into that hyper speed ramping and like a lot of wire work. And I think maybe I don't know. I think Jet Li is just a bit too staid as the character. He's too noble, and in a way that super works for me in Fist of Legend. Like, I think Fist of Legend's Jet Li's kind of best fit as a character performance, because it feels the most like that's truest to his essence in a way, where he is that tiny little bit repressed, but like there's a burning anger there, and if he gets pushed just far enough, he'll be devastating. And I never quite connected with his Wong Fei-hung in the same sort of way, and I always found Jackie's Wong Fei-hung a bit too, particularly in the first movie, a bit too obnoxious in a way that I didn't get in. He's more of the underdog in Snake and Eagle's Shadow, and I think the underdog's a better fit for Jackie's personality. Like, I think makes him much more. He's best
personable.
When he's the dude who does, yeah, totally.
Makes it more enjoyable, yeah.
And there's memes about that sort of stuff, about me like, no, please, no, don't want to fight, don't. And it's like, I love that sort of stuff about him. And so I think the movies of his that I like the most, for this era, definitely, I think I would probably put Young Master above Drunken Master 2 as a more enjoyable watch, even though they're very different films. But I think that's much more Jackie knowing what he's wanting to get and being able to absolutely, completely 100% get it, even if it takes him however many takes he did of that fan catch, was about 120, 150 takes or something insane. And this just the pieces are there, but it just doesn't quite come together in a way that I feel it probably could have done in an alternate universe, right?
Let me add awesome. Oh yeah. I know we want to say that for everyone, because if someone hadn't seen it, they're like, I'm going to skip this one. It's like, no, if you haven't seen it, you guys got to watch it. Because I also feel like it's kind of like a bookend on it, because it feels a little removed from the traditional, and they're going back to it. It's like with Leung to bring it's almost like a last hurrah in a way. I feel like
it's the last classic Shapes film.
Okay. Yeah.
Pretty much.
Yeah. Okay. You would know better than me, because, like I said, there's a cutoff point. I feel that there was like when Crouching Tiger, that's a different era, but that was like another, with Hero and with House of Flying Daggers. It's like we had another run there. Even though they're it's very different, but just with the traditional aspect, and this feels like such a nice bookend to all of it. It's like a celebration in a way.
Yeah.
The question I want to ask though is, so at the beginning, Shaun, you asked, do you love it? Is it in your top 10? What I want to ask you guys is the third question I want to ask is the finale in your top 10 fight scenes? That's what I want to ask you guys.
This is actually a great question to wrap it up on, because I know we try and keep it nice and short. So I think this is a perfect ending to the episode. Would it be in my top 10 fight scenes of all time? Well, considering I like one of the fights in this film better than the finale, then I don't know. I don't think so. I don't think so. And that's not because I don't love the finale. I truly do. And I think it's quite stupid the way I talk about it, because I will tell people that fight scene should be in your top 10 of all time. But it's not in my top 10 of all time. But that's because I'm kind of tied to the old school era, so many fight scenes the from the 70s and even 80s, even something like Benny the Jet and Jackie, I think I prefer to this finale as well. And I'm just tied to that era. And while I love this film, and I do think the finale should have a spot in everyone's favorite list, no matter how long that list is, it's certainly in my list. I just don't know where it would be. But
maybe top 20.
I'm willing to say probably top 20. Yes.
Okay. Wow. How about you, Dragon?
Definitely not top 10.
Okay.
Maybe top 20. Definitely top 50.
Oh, this is hurting.
Definitely top 50.
Oh, you guys are hurting me. I don't know why. I'm still that ending's still blowing my
That's
mind.
because, brother, you've not. There's a whole world of stuff that you haven't seen. That you haven't seen yet.
I agree, but I will. No, I agree, but I will say I do think I felt the ending is better than the raid fights for me. I do still, I do, yeah, because I know there's like a lot going forward I've not seen. I know what's the one, The Night Comes for Us. I know there's like a lot of just crazy stuff, fight scenes.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, something about, I think also there's a nostalgia, and like I said, when I watch the ending, it's like I know every single movement of it, so it's kind of like hearing like an encore song of a band, like you know,
that ties into it for sure.
Yeah, so it could, and it could be like you guys said, as I see more Indonesian, there could be ones, and I mean, I'm not knocking those Mad Dog fight scenes; those are definitely.
I also just think if you count up all of the Venom Mob fights and Leung Lung fights, I think you'd probably find it was a hard run to limit that down to 10.
I agree.
Well, no, yeah, those are all of my favorites, and I mean, Masked Avengers. I think that's an unreal ending. I just think, I think this hangs down. I think this can hang.
If you preface it with, is it in your top 10 nostalgic favorite fights of all time? Then absolutely, it would make that top 10 list. But
well, let me ask: let's put 8 Diagram Pole Fighter aside for a second. Which Lau Kar-Leung end fight would you put above Drunken Master 2?
That's a damn good question, actually.
Well, because you just said if we put those all in, that's what gets it out of the top 10 for you.
Yosaki Kurata and Gordon Liu at the end of Heroes of the East.
Oh yes, I know.
I would say Gordon Liu.
No, you're right. Touche. That's in there for me. You're right.
Gordon Liu, Wang Lung Wei in Martial Club for me. The alley fight.
It's just use of space.
Yeah,
totally.
For sure.
I think the two sort of, this is cheating a little bit, but the two kind of fights against Lee Hoi San in 36 Chamber when he's devising the 3 poles.
No, you're right. You're right. I guess what it is that's a little unfair about the finale, I'll just say, is that it took 3 or 4 months. Okay. It took 3 to 4 months to make that finale. I mean, it took forever, and there's so many sections that it's almost like 4 fight scenes together.
Agreed.
So you could. I mean, when that guy walks out with the chain, that feels like a video game, amazing. So it's very weighted. So when you guys talk about, when I hear Benny the Jet, I mean, that fight scene's unreal, but it's shorter compared to this. I mean, this is so long, so many moving parts, so cool. I just want to get your guys' take. It's still up there for me.
It's still way up there in terms of like best on-screen stunts for me as well, because I see it more as like an incredible.
Oh, you're talking about the ending. That's what you said.
Totally. Yeah. Because I still feel it's more that than it is a fight scene, and that's not taking anything away from it, but it's not kind of two dudes going at it in a well choreographed dance. It's
see, I do see that a lot. Like remember when the guys come in with the hammers and all that? In that section, I mean, there's flipping all the hammers, I know, but then there's a lot of moves where Jackie starts just he's busting out that 8 different versions of the Drunken Fist. I mean, you at least acknowledge, do you see some shapes and connections there, or do you kind of see?
Yeah, but I also see the little mine carts, and I also see the little kind of wee pointless thing lowering from the ceiling that's just coming down. And I love all that shit. I love it.
I got you. No, fair enough. Yeah,
I see it more as like a kind of as just like a really well put together sequence in the way that he would do really well in Operation Condor. But Operation Condor, it kind of fits better in that kind of, and also scratches my itch of like an actual real reason to have an underground base layer thing.
Those Nazis, man. They'll make that shit. Oh, coming soon on 4K as well.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah, lovely.
Shaun, do you want to take us home?
Yes, sir. Thank you so much, everyone, for listening. I hope you enjoyed this episode. Once again, we do love this film.
Yes, we do.
I think on later episodes, maybe we need to stray away from being so kind of critiquing of a film, but we love this shit. Yeah,
so we're keeping it real. My big, and this will not be the last time that we speak about Jackie Chan on the podcast. So if this is your first episode that you've listened to, don't hate us. Subscribe to the pod.
Yeah,
I also think, because it's one thing to throw on is it's on such a pedestal. that we're also trying to add a little more like of a counterbalance to it. If this was an underdog film, we probably wouldn't even be involved. You know what I mean? Like it's kind of like if this was kind of people said it sucked, we'd be like, "What? This is not." You know?
Yeah,
I think
absolutely.
We're trying to kind of balance it in, and that's why I want to see what your guys take to see where it lands. Like where does this truly land for everyone? You know, kind of.
Yeah. The usual stuff, like, share, and subscribe. Please share. If you know someone that will enjoy this podcast, send it their way. We enjoy doing it. We want to keep on doing it, and we want other people to enjoy it as well. You'll find our socials. Are they in the episode description, Jason?
I will put it in. Oh, you mean on the audio?
Yeah.
I think so. Yeah, it should be in there.
Otherwise, you'll find us under the Fanatical Dragon, Martial Arts Theatre 3000, and Food for Thought. Just type that into your Google machine, and off you go.
Yeah, now that we're audio only, I had the links on the YouTube before.
Of course, yeah. We'll find some. It'll be all over Instagram. If you follow us on Instagram, we'll check it up there. So thank you, everyone, for listening, and we will catch you next time.
Goodbye.
Later.